Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we have very big news coming out of the Odessa region of Ukraine that the Russians lobbed an Iskander missile within 150 meters of President Zelensky's convoy, which was carrying the Greek Prime Minister as well, and that there's a suspected assassination attempt there. And that missile did cause damage within the city, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first article of the day, which is from Flash News Ukraine. It says, Russia launches a missile strike near Volodymyr Zelensky's motorcade in Odessa during the Greek Prime Minister's visit to the city, reports Protothemia. And according to the publication, none of the Greek delegation was injured, and Protothemia does not say anything about the Ukrainian delegation, but writes that both leaders will make a joint statement, which means that Zelensky is fine. And in the morning, information about Zelensky's motorcade in Odessa was actively published, and a wave of fake news was spread in the Russian media, alleging that the president had died. So this is a big deal indeed, because this indicates that not only are the Russians trying to kill Zelensky, but in the process, they don't care if there's collateral damage as well, because they could have taken out the Greek Prime Minister also, which would have caused an international incident beyond the borders of Ukraine. So that indicates the Russians are getting quite unhinged indeed to even attempt that. And just a while back, we saw them chase down a German foreign minister with a drone. And even though they didn't launch an attack on the German foreign minister's convoy, they did nonetheless track it down and follow it, which was also quite an escalation as well when it comes to foreign relations. But in this instance, I can assure you all that Zelensky and the Greek Prime Minister are okay. They were not injured in the attack, but unfortunately, there were civilians in the area which did take some damage from that strike. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into our next article here, which is from Slava on Twitter, and we actually have a video of the attack itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video and see what we have here. So here we go.
Τον πρόεδρο της Ουκρανίας, τον Volodymyr Zelenskyy, σήμερα λοιπόν και οι πληροφορίες είναι πριν από λίγο που έχουμε λάβει ότι σημειώθηκε έκρηξη πολύ κοντά στην ελληνική αποστολή σε απόσταση περίπου 150 μέτρων και φυσικά και κοντά και στην αυτοκινητοποίηση της Προεδρίας της Ουκρανίας.
And they are speeding off to make sure they get out of the danger zones here of those missiles and any further Russian attacks. But certainly quite a big incident indeed, and it was caught on camera at least partially. However, we did not get to see the exact explosion, but it was reported to be, like I said, within 150 meters or so. But with that, we're moving on to our next article here, which is from Anton Jeroshenko. And we can see that Zelensky commented on the missile attack on Odessa during his meeting with the Prime Minister of Greece. And according to the president, as a result of the strike, there are dead and injured. And like I said, it was a reported Iskander missile system which carried out the strike, falling within 150 meters of Zelensky's convoy. So, very big news indeed, and just sort of a recap of what we already know. And we can see here that Zelensky did comment on the unfortunate deaths which occurred from that Russian attack in the city. But moving on to our next post here, we have one from Flash News Ukraine again, and we do have some positive news that came out of that entire situation between the meeting between Zelensky and also the Prime Minister of Greece. It says here in the post that Greece and Ukraine have started preparing a bilateral agreement on security guarantees, and this was announced by Zelensky himself during a press conference. And Zelensky says that he hopes the teams between Greece and Ukraine will soon prepare the agreement for signing, and we have to fix it in the level of cooperation and support already achieved this year, as well as for the next 10 years. And it is a long-term security cooperation that gives the best results. So it sounds like a promising agreement indeed. However, it's not going to be a groundbreaking or game-changing agreement because while Greece is a powerful military country, it doesn't have a ton of stuff that it can really do to help, which could, sort of hamper that agreement a little bit. But any help at this point is a big help. But with that, we're moving on to our next article here, which goes to Nexta on Twitter. And we can see that the protests in Poland with the Polish farmers are growing quite large. And there's a large protest of farmers today that's taking place in Warsaw, and approximately 150,000 people are expected to participate. And previously, the farmers said they wanted to enter the city on tractors, but authorities and the court banned such entry, fearing inconvenience and damage to the road surface. However, they say farmers plan in principle to enter with tractors, and since the morning, they've been trying to drive tractors onto the roads leading to Warsaw, but the police are currently preventing that. So we're getting reports from all around Poland that these protests are getting a little bit more extreme, and they're getting much larger indeed. So we're hearing of many reports of the police having to bring out riot gear to maintain some order in these cities, including Warsaw. And we can see here the Polish farmers are quite upset, and they are not letting this issue go, and it seems like there might be some anti-Ukraine sentiments popping up in the country that we hadn't seen previously until this grain issue has gotten out of control. So a little bit unnerving when it comes to the relationship between Poland and Ukraine, but hopefully they can get that smoothed over, because I'm still holding out hope on that front. But with that, let's go ahead and move on to our next post here. And you all might remember that back on February 14th, the Russian landing ship Caesar Kunikov was actually attacked in the Black Sea by Ukrainian drone boats. And today, the Kremlin military correspondents have published a video of that drone attack on the landing ship. And we can see here that the Russians on board the vessel tried to fire at it with everything they had, and they pretty much missed with every single shot. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video and see what we have. And as you can hear, there is no sound in the video, but we do see the Russians here holding their camera and filming this disaster for them. And there's the drone boat moving around in the water right there. And the Russians have a spotlight on it, and they're trying to fire all their, like not missiles, but firearms at it. And that is not working. They're really just shooting at the ground, and it's really hitting nothing. Not good for the Russians. But with that, we're moving on to our next post here, which goes to FITUX News. And in this post here, we can see that Moldova and France will sign a defense cooperation accord on Thursday as part of the West's efforts to strengthen the former Soviet states' capabilities amid what they fear are increasing efforts by Russia to destabilize Moldova, reports Reuters. And we were wondering if anything were to happen to Moldovan territory. For example, the Russians are talking about invading Transnistria to take that back. We're wondering who's going to come to Moldova's aid if something like that were to occur. And it appears that France is stepping up to be the Western country to do so. And also, we're presuming that Ukraine would help as well. But at the moment, we only have one guarantee from France that they would do so. So that's good to hear, and we'll have to wait and see if France does certainly live up to that agreement. So with that, let's move on to our last article of the day, which goes to Nexta as well. And we're learning that Moldova has withdrawn from an army limitation treaty after Transnistria's appeal to Russia, and the Moldovan government has approved the suspension of the Conventional Armed Forces in Europe Treaty, and the State Secretary of the country's defense ministry, Valery, says the Kremlin called Moldova's decision directed against Russia and its interests. And we know in late February, the Transnistrian authorities asked Russia to help due to pressure from Moldova. So it does certainly seem like Moldova is preparing for something to happen. They're withdrawing from an army limitation treaty, which means they can grow their forces as large as they need to. And we're also learning that France is coming to their aid, like we saw in that last post, and agreeing to help them if anything were to break out. So we're seeing the preparations being made in case Russia does move on Moldova, and that's a certainly wise precaution because Russia seems to be setting the propaganda stage to justify an invasion of Transnistria. So with that, that is our last piece of news for the day. And I hope you found this video informative, and if you have, press that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well, because that greatly helps us get the news out there. And if you want to support us financially and help us out that way also, we do have a Patreon page. The link is in the description below, and you can sign up over there and help support the channel that way as well. So once again, thank you all for watching, and bye-bye for now.